Hello everyone, today we are going to be reviewing Joker, Folie, Deux, which is in French, I believe, for no reason, because there's no French in the movie, I don't think.
No, there's not. I guess Folie à Deux is French for a madness of two.
But why in French? Is there French in the movie? Are they in France? No. So anyways, this is the sequel to the first Joker by Todd Phillips, which was a huge smash success.
Yeah, big hit.
And we're going to be doing a non-spoiler review first, and then we're going to go ahead and talk spoilers because there's a lot we need to unpack.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
But Ryan, how did you feel about the first one first?
Oh, the first Joker? Well, I was mixing the first one. We watched the first one again actually to prepare for this sequel, and I had a lot of the same issues I did the first one. I had the story I thought was a little clunky, felt that there was a lot of kind of artistic hoopla that didn't really have a lot of meaning behind it. However, I thought the cinematography in the first one was the highlight, and Joaquin Phoenix's performance I thought was fantastic. And I was really effectively disturbed by the whole Franklin
Murray
finale. And I did appreciate Joker, I think, a little bit more rewatching it. I was very excited for the sequel because, to be honest, the trailer really did it for me. I thought it looked incredible. When the film started for Joker Folie Deux, I thought I was in for a real treat. It was as good, I felt, if not better than the first. It was this kind of grungy prison movie with Joaquin Phoenix really showing off his bony body. It was a really intriguing setup with Lady Gaga's character kind of entering the picture, kind of turning Joker 2 into kind of an offbeat musical with romance in the air. However, the story just gets stuck. It keeps spinning its wheels in this court procedural section, and I just felt like it never progressed or moved forward.
I feel the exact same way, really. It was headed down like a really exciting path at first, but once we get to that court proceedings part that you're talking about, I feel like we hit a wall and we just never were able to recover.
Yeah, I don't know why Phillips wanted to go in this court direction. I thought the first musical numbers were strange, but ultimately they were working for me, even with, like, you know, Joaquin Phoenix kind of mumbling his way through it.
Not always. Sometimes he screamed his way through it.
He screams his way through it, but on pitch. He was on pitch. Mm-hmm. It's not like he can't sing, but there's all these songs that have very loose tie-ins in terms of what the song lyrics are saying. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they don't really move the story forward. Like the song isn't a part of the storyline.
No, it'll be like Joker. He sees Lady Gaga and he's enamored, and then he'll go back to his jail cell and be like, why do they build me up, buttercup baby? And I'm just like, I don't get it.
It wasn't that bad, but
no, but
yeah. Yeah, the songs are more like taking little breaks. Like we're taking a little commercial break and we're singing a song. I feel like the story doesn't, it's not, if you take out all the songs, the story doesn't change.
Right.
It's still the same movie.
Yeah.
We still have the same outcome. And you don't miss anything because the songs are not a pivotal part of the story.
Yeah, like I heard this movie compared to Chicago, but it's like, this isn't Chicago. Like if you take out all the songs in Chicago, you're taking out a lot of plot with it. And here, I don't think the songs add a whole lot. I think they all start also sounding the same, all relatively the same. So I think it becomes a little taxing. And in the film's second half, it kind of shifts into this court drama where he's on trial for the crimes of the first one. You know, topics like the death penalty and mental illness, media sensationalizing tragedies. All these topics are on the table. But Todd Phillips says basically nothing about any of these. He doesn't really dive into them.
Yeah, like there's no real substantial intellectual discussions that are being had. It's just a slew of witnesses, to be honest. I feel like it was just like a slew of witnesses approaching the stand.
It's like a who's who of the first movie, really. It reminded me of Curb Your Enthusiasm in that finale where Larry's like bringing all the characters from previous seasons to take the stand. It just like, oh, I don't know. I just was not a fan.
I was honestly really looking forward to it because I wanted to see the like crazy, chaotic Bonnie and Clyde love story. I was really rooting for Lady Gaga to have her like larger than life personality finally be appreciated. And we got a little bit of that in the beginning, but I feel like they completely dropped the ball right in the middle of it and we lose that chaotic love story.
Yeah. And in the court drama, I felt like it was kind of pretty implausible for most of it. Like it kind of makes like the court scene in Air Bud look like A Few Good Men. But back to what you're saying, I think the number one issue I have It trades what could have been, what you're talking about, a twisted, dark, strange, kind of uncomfortable love story between Harley Quinn and Joker, where two kind of demented individuals feed into each other's toxic qualities. And instead of seeing where that kind of story takes us, we get to this like whatever court drama where the commentary underneath is so, I felt, paper thin and just doesn't amount to much.
There's one good thing that came out of that court drama section, which was like this one song that was actually a pretty like kind of bold take. I thought it was interesting. It ties into what's actually happening in the scene. It's mostly like what he's thinking in his mind in that moment. And it wasn't just like us taking a break and like La La Land. It just felt like it had more purpose than the other songs.
Well, we can talk about that song soon because we're going to get into spoilers. But what I can say is that some of the songs I did feel worked. Some of them worked better than others. I do give the film a lot of credit for even going towards a musical direction, which is definitely a risky move for a Joker film to take. Despite how I sound, there is a lot that I still liked, especially from a production standpoint. I thought the highlight of the first Joker was definitely the cinematography by Lawrence Shear. The color has so many contrasty kind of colors and shades of blues and greens and yellows. I can only describe it as kind of the Joker look. They created their own look. The visuals in Folie was once again the highlight of the film for me. I thought it was
Yeah, you loved it. You talked about it for a while.
I absolutely loved the look of the film.
The color grade.
The color grade, the sets, I thought were really good.
I really liked the acting. I thought, obviously, Joaquin Phoenix was great. He always is. There is no scene that tops the Murray scene from the first movie. That's like, just in all honesty, that scene was like magical in terms of like all the complex layers that he plays in that scene.
Right.
It's so good. And I don't think the second one comes close to even having something like that. But obviously, he's still a great actor, consistently great actor throughout the entire film. He's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree. Phoenix makes Joker a very fascinating character to watch still. His uncontrollable laughter mixed with kind of vulnerability and that insanity. I feel like Todd Phillips has a habit in making scenes feel like twice as long as they need to be sometimes. I feel like he just like milks it a little too much. But Phoenix as a performer is just so interesting to watch, kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, I thought Lady Gaga was great too, but the part was written small and Gaga also played it small, unfortunately, and the film didn't really showcase any of her like mega star skill sets. Like, she's an amazing singer, and we didn't really get to see any like big belters from her, really.
Like the one time you want Gaga to be Gaga in a movie, they straitjacket her.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not a big like comic book guy, but I assume the character of Harley Quinn is unpredictable, hilariously mischievous. There are like 2 moments in the film that kind of shows that side, but it just doesn't feel crazy enough.
Yeah, the character feels underwritten. And honestly, it doesn't take the character to any interesting places either. It's quite a boring character.
Yeah. I thought Brandon Gleeson, who plays a prison guard, I really liked his character. I thought he made a lot out of a kind of a smaller character. The score by Hildur Guðnadóttir.
My name is Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Is a highlight as well. It's offering a very similar kind of score from the first one. Still worked for me. For me, it's just a very mixed bag still. Like, from a production standpoint, I'm still an admirer of Joker. There's so much craft going on that I think that I do appreciate. I do appreciate the swing with kind of the musical direction it took. I just wish that it just landed it, because there's a lot of creative ideas out there. I just didn't think they stuck the landing.
Yeah, so do you want to talk spoilers next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you rate? First, what would you rate this one before we move on to spoilers?
Honestly, at the beginning of this film, I was rating it pretty high. I was like, man, this is like an 8 for me right now. I think production-wise, like I talked about, the craft, it's very well crafted, very well shot. I think the writing, in terms of story, taking us down this kind of dull courtroom drama, just completely sunk the film for me. And the sequel was similar to the first in the sense that it's kind of dressed up as an art film with a lot to say, but just doesn't have a lot to say. Or at least what it has to say is very muddled. So yeah, it was disappointing for me, but hey, that's life. That's life. I have to go with a 5.
Honestly, I have to give it a 5 too, because it really hit a wall for me and it was not able to recover. I didn't get that chaotic romance that I wanted, even like just the chaotic uprising of like the people, and no rebellion. I didn't even get a good musical. I know you had Lady Gaga. Okay. So I go with a 5. But let's quickly go ahead and talk spoilers before getting into Oscars, because I'm sure you're going to do that.
Okay.
So if you don't want spoilers, you've been warned. Spoiler warning. So let's talk about specific scenes that worked, because I feel like we've been doing a lot of
Right.
negative talk.
Okay.
Because we did like parts of it.
Yeah, no, I thought the opening was really great for me.
Hands down.
I'm talking about the cartoon. It opens with
okay.
this kind of like old school, almost kind of Looney Tunes cartoon
yeah.
version of Joker who's fighting with his shadow, kind of showing the two sides of Arthur Fleck that are kind of constantly fighting each other. It was such an unexpected way of opening the film. I really liked that. It really brought me in.
And then we get to see Arthur in prison, living in the prison ward, and he's living this very gloomy, depressed life. It's very, very repetitive. He's taking medications. He's subdued. He's completely changed. He's being bullied by all the security guards there, basically. But he's too heavily medicated, I guess, to care about anything.
Yeah, he's kind of like Randall McMurphy at the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But I love this setup, though. I like it. It was building tension a little bit for me, and I really liked when Lady Gaga enters the picture, who is kind of in a singing rehabilitation class as Harley Quinn, and meets Arthur, and then, Joker is smitten with her, and we get our first kind of musical sequence. Prisoners are talking with Arthur about what they think about him getting the electric chair, and then Arthur kind of enters this musical fantasy sequence, singing Stevie Wonder's Someone Who Needs Me. I really thought this scene worked, though. I really was into it.
But why was he singing that song in response to them saying you're going to get fried? Because they're like, how do you feel about that? You're going to get fried.
I just assumed that he was kind of off in his own world, like not caring about the electric chair at that moment, not even listening to them, because he just met the love of his life and he's like in a daze.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of these songs, again, they have such loose tie-ins. But I thought Joaquin's singing was really interesting in that section. After that, there was a scene in the projection room while watching a movie. Harley starts a fire.
Yeah, that was like my favorite part. That whole sequence made me really excited for the film, because we're getting to this like Bonnie and Clyde crazy chaotic love story. And I think Lady Gaga played that part really well, and it just seemed like it was going down a really fun path.
Yeah, I like that scene as well. And they somehow make it outside the grounds of the prison, and they're like dancing kind of in this way that she's describing, with this prison on fire behind them. It's completely on brand with the chaos that I was kind of expecting to see from their story. I think after that or before that, there's a TV interview with a reporter played by Steve Coogan. The interview doesn't really go well, but this is where the question of, does Arthur Fleck have a split personality called Joker that caused him to kill Murray and the 5 other people, or is his insanity just an act? And honestly, I just don't see why the film even focuses in on this question. Like, why does it matter in the grand scheme of things? I don't really get why he went down this
route. Yeah, I think it's trying to present like a very deep, compelling discussion about mental health and whether or not Joker is going to take accountability for his actions, or take accountability for who he is, I guess, as a person, or accept his mental health diagnosis. It's almost like they're trying to have a discussion about, do we have free will or not? Like, did he have control of why he ended up this way or not? Did he have a decision for his choices or not? Obviously, the lawyer is trying to say that he didn't, and people who are trying to prosecute him are saying...
Again, it's a question, but is it that interesting?
Yeah, unfortunately, the exploration is quite surface level. So we never really get to the nitty-gritty of whether or not, he had freedom of choice in his actions. His lawyer obviously clearly saying, yeah, Arthur had no free will because of his dissociative identity disorder and his childhood trauma, but we only get small glimpses and we never really fully dive into it, which is why I feel like this whole section, instead of being half the movie, could have been cut down to one scene.
Whether Arthur is in control of his actions or not, whether he's guilty or not, I feel like these are questions that like no one was asking from the first one. And I'm just kind of confused what Todd Phillips is really saying about society or about mental health that is kind of anywhere near interesting, because we know Arthur, by now, we know from the first one, as the audience, we understand that he has a disorder with a lot of major psychological issues. So the question of whether he's crazy or not was never really like a question for us. So it kind of feels like a little bit of a waste of time.
So after the interview in the prison fire, Arthur and Quinn have a sex scene, which I thought was pretty decent.
It was right.
I thought it was like awkward, and I feel like we learn a little bit about how like Arthur potentially has never had sex before, so she kind of has to teach him what sex is, I guess, in a way. It's very subtle, but anyways.
Yeah, I think this might be like Todd Phillips' way of kind of trying to show that Arthur Fleck is just kind of like a little bit of a loser, I guess, in a sense.
But anyways, after all that, the fire and the whatever, Harley Quinn actually, she goes in when they have sex to tell him that she's leaving. But we learn from his lawyer that she actually doesn't have a disorder. She is like
self-admitted.
Yeah, she like checked herself in to the psych ward, and now she's checking herself out of the psych ward. She's just kind of lying, I guess.
And she's also from a rich neighborhood,
Yeah.
which generally I'm not really entirely sure what the point really was. Like, why not just be crazy? Like, I don't know how this kind of adds to the story.
I guess it shows she's like a different kind of crazy. She's like, she seems to be like some kind of pathological liar or something.
Right.
I don't know. Or she has some other deeper plan in mind. Who knows? We don't really know. That's all the information you get, really.
Right. After that, Joker has a dream musical sequence where Joker and Harley have like a Sonny and Cher like duo on what looked like kind of Murray's old show with the curtains. And Harley shoots him in the stomach, which I guess kind of foreshadows another betrayal that happens later in the movie.
I really liked that little sequence,
Yeah, no,
too.
I liked
thought
it.
it was a good one. It's also him possibly coming to terms with the fact that she's lying to him, you know? Like,
Right.
he's in his own imagination, kind of it's sinking in, and he's
Right.
realizing, like, yeah, this bitch is lying to me.
Then we move over to the trial. And it's a bit of a media frenzy. The entire trial is about whether he's guilty, which obviously he is, and whether he's crazy, which obviously he is. So the trial's not going well, so Arthur starts to defend himself.
And that's when I feel like it kind of jumps the shark, because he puts his Joker makeup back on, and the judge just allows it.
Apparently the jail provides him with makeup.
Right.
Bought it from commissary. Right?
Commissary. Right. And he starts to speak in this really heavy Southern accent for no apparent reason. My, if I had to take a guess, and I'm stretching here, I'm guessing that he's trying to mimic lawyers from different like old books or movies, like To Kill a Mockingbird or something. But there's no reference to
like
it.
it'd be different if the prosecutor talked like that and that was like his way of kind of mocking him. Like, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the witnesses are all kind of also surviving characters of the last movie.
So one of the witnesses is the little person, Puddles, from the first movie, who tries to, I feel like in this scene, he's trying to appeal to Arthur's softer side.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's trying to make him feel bad for what he did. And he's trying to convince Arthur that Joker and Arthur are not one entity, which doesn't really make sense because he's the witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, didn't make sense to me. And it went on for a long time.
Yeah.
But this leads to the Joker finally admitting essentially that there is no Joker and that it was he, Arthur, alone who did the murders. It was kind of like that Breaking Bad scene where Walt finally admits to being a drug dealer for his own selfish reasons, not for the family.
I did it for me. I liked it.
However, this is supposed to be like a big emotional scene. But again, I just didn't really see the relevance of it kind of exploring this. Like, if Arthur is an embodiment of, say, someone in the real world who commits a heinous crime and then claims insanity, like, what is the film saying in this moment about those people? Like, the commentary is just a little sloppy.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Honestly, the commentary is a mess.
So then after that, there's a big explosion in the court. It actually woke me up because I was getting a little bit like, oh my God, I'm done with this movie.
Same.
And then finally it was like, oh, okay, something's happening. And Arthur's finally free from this explosion. And then he hops into like a Stan's car. And at this point, I was kind of curious, like, where is this heading, you know?
Yeah, I was excited again because I was like, oh, yes, finally, the part that we were waiting for, the part we're exciting to see, like the big revolution, not revolution, the big
Climax.
the big climax, the big like civil war, whatever is going to happen right now, you know?
But nothing happens. He just kind of gets out of the car, runs away. And then he goes and revisits that big long staircase from the first one again, another unnecessary recall. And then Harley Quinn's up there, and then when he goes up there, she breaks up with him because he basically says he's not the Joker. And it's actually kind of funny because when Harley starts to sing to him, remember that? And Joker's kind of telling her like, stop singing, please stop. And they're kind of like speaking for everyone in the audience at that point. Like, and we all feel the same way. We're like, yes, please, this is not working. Let's just stop. But again, he gets arrested again. And then the film kind of ends with the Joker in jail. And then he goes to see a visitor, but a fellow inmate goes to tell him a joke. And then the joke ends with the same punchline that Arthur said in the first movie. You get what you fucking deserve. And then he stabs the fellow inmate, which for some reason I did see coming. I don't know why.
Yeah, you called it really early.
Yeah. So as Arthur's kind of dying on the floor, the inmate in the back is seen laughing kind of maniacally and gives himself the Glasgow smile with a knife. So it's kind of, I think, the assumption that Arthur Fleck is not the real Joker, never was the real Joker, and potentially the person who stabbed him is, which to me was kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was a rather weak ending as well. I do want to bring one thing up. They lied to us about that Joker and Lady Gaga scene where they're going down the stairs.
And I was waiting for it the whole movie.
It's in the trailer. They're leaving the courthouse and they're going down the stairs and they're dancing and she like humps the air. And she looks like really cool. And that scene's not in the movie. It's like not there.
Yeah. Overall, the ending kind of just more made me feel a little empty. This other Joker, it just kind of felt like a little out of left field for me.
Yeah, and his death is clearly, I think, a setup, right?
Yeah.
In the film, because the cop is like, Arthur, you got a visitor, and then like the cop mysteriously disappears and just leaves him there for a long time with the other inmate, like nobody's there. So it's clearly like a setup, but I guess, I don't know, will we ever find out anything about it? No.
There's no Joker Folie Do, I mean, I'm going to give it credit. It doesn't take a traditional route with its ending. The ending was definitely something I don't think anyone was expecting. I give them credit for having the balls of not doing something basic, but it was just, again, messy, muddled, and yeah, the ending felt flat for me.
Same. It's kind of hard to be invested in Arthur and his life when the movie kind of failed at the story. So I kind of stopped caring at a certain point. So even his death wasn't like heart-wrenching, which I think it was supposed to be, but it wasn't, just because I feel like you give up on him halfway through the film.
If I had to fix the story like a bit, working with what they've created, I'd keep the opening. I like the opening. Have Joker do the TV interview, play with the themes of how kind of media plays a part in giving attention to mass murderers, maybe. And then his like TV appearance starts to kind of ignite the admirers in Gotham. We cut that court drama down, essentially, to like 2 or 3 scenes max. Or one. And then we kind of keep that court song that you talked about where Joker is kind of bludgeoning the judge with the gavel. Maybe his court appearance will start to kind of ignite the admirers when the Joker has this kind of big grandstanding speech and kind of speaks to the have-nots and the rejects of Gotham City. And then during this, obviously, Joker and Harley are kind of involved in this whirlwind toxic relationship.
It would be nice also to like tie in the musical numbers. In the first one, he wanted to be a comedian, and that was like a big part of the movie. He wanted to be a comedian. That's why he wanted to go on Murray's show. So maybe this time around, it could be like give reason for why he wants to be a singer.
Like maybe just put a little seed in there. Like he's now obsessed with this TV show that he watches in jail. That's like kind of like a singing show or something. But yeah, agreed. But yeah, also in this whirlwind kind of romance, maybe Harley will like start whispering in his ear and manipulating Joker and doing whatever she wants, including a plan, I would say, to break out of jail. I think that would be a really fun thing. Then instead of a court movie, the movie could be like a prison break movie. But when the plan falls apart, suddenly like an explosion at the jail, where the Joker's newfound kind of group of admirers have kind of hitched a plan and like freeze him. But now Joker is like completely in over his head, being kind of the symbol and leader of like a group that wants to create chaos, I guess. And then the movie just ends, Then we pick it up at Joker 3. Who cares?
I don't know if we need a part 3, though. I don't even mind the ending that they had in this one. I just wish there was a little bit more like groundwork that would make it feel like a suitable conclusion.
Okay, well, let's tweak the current ending. So the real Joker that kills Arthur, maybe include him a little bit more in the story, just like a tad more. Then at the end, it's actually maybe like Harley and this new Joker that kill Arthur together. It's like an ultimate betrayal. Honestly, there's tons of stories they could have gone with that would have been more interesting. It's really the courtroom stuff in Joker that really didn't work for me.
Okay, so now that we rewrote the movie, thanks, Ryan, let's talk about Oscars. So, what do you see happening with Joker Folie à Deux in French?
Well, I think it is important to keep in mind that after seeing the first one, I never thought it would go on to get 11 nominations. So maybe this film may overperform more than maybe we're expecting now. So what I will say is that this didn't win the Golden Lion. I don't think that Joker is going to be liked by audiences. I'm already starting to see that it's not liked by audiences. The first Joker was, new and fresh. I don't think this one feels very new or fresh. So I wouldn't put it in like the pile that's like a no way, it's never getting nominated, but I definitely wouldn't have it in my 10 at this point. So director, it's not likely. Joaquin Phoenix, I think he could still pull off a nomination. Is that weird to think that?
I mean, he is Joaquin Phoenix. He's just that guy. He's that actor,
Right. I haven't taken him out of my lineup, but I'll probably move him out eventually just because the movie's going to be not liked. So maybe he'll land 6 or 7, but I don't think he's off the table. I generally think we're looking at possibly nothing to 5 nominations. I think 5 would be like its best day. I think cinematography's at the top, followed by costume design, original score, makeup. I would say those are probably the most likely, and then maybe Joaquin Phoenix, maybe production design. I think those jails and musical sets were pretty interesting. I just genuinely don't think that the excitement for this film, it's just not going to be there. I think it's going to sink the film for the Oscars, and I think we're looking probably more realistically around 2 nominations. Anything you want to say?
No.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think Joker's Oscar chances are? How would you have improved the story? Comment below, and while you're there, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews. Follow me on Twitter, or you can follow us on Instagram. Links in the bio. Thanks always for watching. Right. And until next time.
We'll see you at the Oscars.
Joker's probably not going to be there, but